Knives, knives, knives. Stainless steel or carbon steel? What am I going to choose in a knife? Well, depending on the criteria that you're asking for in a knife, is certainly going to determine which way you're going to go. Personally, I haven't always been a freak about knives. I used to love guns and shooting, whatever. But the past few years, I've come to appreciate the work that's involved in creating a custom knife, and I just fell in love with knives, and I haven't stopped buying them ever since. Based on my experience being an ex-smoked meat cutter, you know, these guys that sit behind the table there in a deli and they're carving that brisket, making nice big mile-high sandwiches. Well, for the longest time I used to do that. When I retired from that trade, I went on to selling the product. In my life's experience, I've handled a lot of knives. I've handled stainless steel knives, and I've handled carbon steel knives. And I have to tell you one thing. Stainless steel knives are more practical than a carbon steel knife. And why is that, you may ask? Well, reason is because it's stainless steel. Now, don't get confused with the word stainless steel. It's stainless. It won't stain as easy as other metals will, although it will rust, and I will prove it to you. I have quality kitchen knives made of stainless steel here with rust spots on. And I have a carbon steel knife, okay, which is this baby right here, that I've had for close to, at least 35 years, if not more, maybe even 40 years, okay? And this knife was given to me by a gentleman who owned a meat processing plant that used to make the smoked meat and sell it to my brother-in-law who had the restaurant. And he came up to me one day and he says, "Andy, you know, I'm sick and tired of seeing you struggle with a stainless steel butcher knife. Here, take this Dexter. I've had it for a few years and I'm giving it to you, and I want you to work with this knife." Well, I've never departed with this knife. Wherever I worked carving meat, I would take this knife with me. Even at personal functions, picnics, whatever, I would always take my old Dexter with me, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Now, if you notice, and I will zoom in the camera later on, you will notice this knife looks a lot more beaten up than this particular knife. Reason being, yes, it has been worked more, but it also is made out of carbon steel, whereas this one here is made out of stainless steel. Hence, this one here has no stains on it, and it looks in much better shape. But if you put performance next to each other, like I can probably swing this carbon steel knife up against this one here, and it'll chop this one in half. There's no comparison. A stainless steel knife will sharpen faster than a carbon steel knife, although it will not keep its edge. The harder it is, and the longer it takes you to sharpen, manually sharpen, a knife will give you a longer lasting edge. I believe, and again, this is from my own personal experience. I don't claim to be some kind of knife expert. There's a lot of them out there that know more than me. I am just telling you all this from my personal 40-year experience in the restaurant business and having had all kinds of knives. So, personally, I prefer carbon steel, and when it comes to bushcraft, even more so. I will prefer a carbon steel knife as opposed to a stainless steel knife. And the other thing that I love is to force patina on my knives. Fortunately, this guy here, I did not have to force any patina because through the years, the patina formed. And you can see that in the spots and the bluing. It's like blue, black. It actually looks, somebody who doesn't know will look at this and say, hey, take this and throw it in the garbage. My wife would have thrown this knife out a long time ago, okay? Because they just don't know. Patina is not a bad thing, okay? That's why I force patina on all my knives, okay? It helps prevent rust because you're creating a coat over your blade, over your steel. And again, I'm not no expert, so my terminology and whatever, you know, the way I'm talking with respect to the technical aspect of this video might be a little off, but I think you're going to get the point at the end. I force patina on my knives. There's new knives like this Mora Classic that I picked up a little while ago. I force patina on it. First and foremost, it's good for the blade. I do not like the look of this blade. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a $350, $400 knife, okay? Handmade by Abel Eyes from Diving Sparrow. Although I don't like it shiny like this. Some people do. I do not. If this knife was mine and I was not going to be giving it away in a contest, this knife would look like this guy right here. Okay? So, again, it's all a question of taste, what your preferences are. I believe that patina is good for a knife. It's very easy to force patina on a knife. All you have to do is either take some mustard, vinegar, potato works well, and you just take a potato or two, stick the knife blade into the potatoes, leave it there for a few hours, even overnight, won't harm it. Next day you come back, and from this, it's going to look like this. And it'll help protect the knife from rust. And again, another thing, don't you dare think for a minute that stainless steel won't rust. What I said before, I'm going to say it again. It's stainless, not rustless. It will rust. And to prove it to you, this is an international knife maker who makes these knives. It's the little man with the spear, you know what I'm talking about. High-end knives. A set of knives like this is going to cost you close to $500-600. And if you leave it alone and don't take care of it, it will rust. This one here is starting to rust on the edge. Now what I want you to do is take a very close look at this stainless steel. You see the rust spots? A brand name bread knife, and it has rust stains on it. This one also had rust stains right about here, but I guess maybe it's on the other side. Yeah, here it is. You see that? Just thought I'd show you what forced patina looks like. This is forced patina on the Hella. This is also forced patina on the Chris Kane. Natural patina on the Olsen. Isn't that just beautiful? And this is natural patina on my Dexter. So I bought this crooked knife, or crook knife, whatever you call it. It's a Mora, good quality, carbon steel, shafted in a leather sheath that I made, forgot about it, 3 months later got into the leather sheath, and this is what happened. It started rusting out on me. I tried to clean it, but the damage was done. Stainless steel does rust, and if you were told that it doesn't, you were misled. And another thing I'm going to tell you, when you guys go to some of these stores and you're buying, whether it be a kitchen knife or a bushcraft knife or whatever kind of knife it is, half the time these kids behind the counter don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. And I don't blame them for it. It's just that they're there temporarily until they go through school, and they're just selling what they have on top of the counter or under the counter. They don't know their product. Half of these people don't know their product, unless you fall upon some old geezer who's been handling knives for the past 30, 40 years, and he has a little bit of knowledge. But this type of education, when it comes to knives, guns, whatever, it's on the field. It's what you know from experience, meaning years behind it. Not going out there taking a lesson, oh, you just learned something, and boom, makahai, all of a sudden you become an expert. That ain't the way it works, okay? I saw a video on the tube about 1.5 years ago, actually from one of our members who had purchased one of these sharpening stones. It's a complete set. It's got 3 sides to it, and it works. Hey, it works very well. Apparently, it's bulletproof. It's a perfect sharpening machine. But it runs. I can't remember how much I paid, but I think it was upwards of $100. Okay, maybe even a little bit more. So, yes, it's a good tool. It will sharpen your knives. Personally, this is what I like. You go out and you get yourself an old sharpening stone. Dip your cloths in oil. I love to use olive oil. I would carve close to maybe 400 or 500 pounds of the meat in a week. So this thing has cut a lot of meat, tons of meat, okay? I would only buff my knife. I would only take it to the whip once every so often, okay? But I would not use my knife for anything else but meat. I wouldn't start boning chicken or cutting onions or hitting the knife across the cutting board. This knife was made carving meat, and that's all it did. So again, these knives, these bushcraft knives, use them for what they're made. Don't go chopping wood with them, whatever. I see a lot of guys out there, video, people, and they're taking their knives and they're batoning. You shouldn't have to use a stone like this. When your knife comes in and it's razor sharp, it's your job to make sure it stays that way, and it will, providing you don't abuse your knife. Now, if you're going to take your knife, you're going to start cutting wire snares, and you're going to be cutting through leather, and you're going to be cutting through bone, and you're going to be batoning 4-inch logs, well, hey, buddy, eventually you're going to get nicks on your blade. And I don't care what kind of blade it is. You gotta baby your knife. It's a tool that should last you for generations. It's a tool that you should be able to pass on to your kids. So, buff your knife, pass it through a whip once in a while, more than enough. And then once every season, for instance, take the stone to it. And you don't have to go out and build yourself supports and whatever, they sell all these kind of supports that you can stick this stone in and whatever. What we used to do, we used to take a little cloth like this, wet it down, make sure that the cloth was wet, put our stone to it, okay? And if the cloth is wet, this thing ain't going anywhere. You don't have to build yourself extravagant supports and vices to hold this thing in place. You don't have to do that. And on the field, what I take with me all the time is this guy right here, the Lansky's Diamond Whip. This whip here is amazing. It's perfect. I just take my knife to it and whip it 15-20 times, and this thing will cut through anything. And that's all you need to do, is you buff your blade good enough. So having said all that, when you're buying a knife, make that investment once in your life. Don't go out buying this guy and that guy, and in the end you're stuck with 100 knives and you're only using one. You're only going to use one knife. You should be using only one knife. You shouldn't have to use 10 different knives when you're going out in the field. Okay? It's like your hunting rifles or your guns or shotguns. You need one good shotgun and you need one rifle. That's all you need. Storing your knives in the right place. You do not store your knife in a leather sheath for any amount of time. If it's not holstered to your side, then there's no need for it to be in a leather sheath. Leather draws humidity, and humidity is no good for your knife. You know what I'm saying. What you do, buy yourself a little aluminum briefcase like I did. I saw this this idea on a video. I think it was Mike from Bushcraft Bartons that had this idea, and as soon as I saw the video, thanks again Mike, as soon as I saw the video, I went to Canadian Tire and I picked up a couple of these suckers, and I was lucky enough to find them on special because they're usually going for about, I think, 40 or 50 bucks. And I was lucky enough to end up in the store that day, and they were at 50. I believe they were at 50% off. So I think I picked up two for the price of one. And what I did, I just put all my knives in here in this fashion here. This is the way I do it. I just put my knives in there like that. Okay. And if you notice, you find these things in all the packaging where you receive electronics, sometimes purses and clothes, whatever. You'll see these silica packets. Don't throw them away. You got a gun safe. Take these suckers and throw them in the bottom of your gun safe. Did you ever notice you open up your gun safe or a personal safe in your house and your papers and everything smells like rotten mildew? Of course. You do this, it ain't going to happen. It's going to prevent the mildew because these things are going to draw in all the humidity. So what I do, take a few of these, throw them in there, keep my knives in these. In this case, and I never had a problem. And in my gun case, I do the same thing. When I receive some goods from, from the internet, whatever, and they have these little silica packages, whether it's this small or even smaller, I don't throw them up. I just throw them in my briefcase or in my gun safe. And it helps. Another little tip. Whatever I tell you is my honest opinion on things, and it's all based on my experience from being out there in the field. I've never taken any courses. I've talked to a lot of people, but again, I ain't no expert. So take everything I tell you with a grain of salt again. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you on the next vid.